Hey, Chris here, and today I would like to show you some ideas for making Christmas tree toppers with things that you might find outside. In 2019, our McDonough County Master Gardeners, they decorated a Christmas tree for the Macomb Christmas Tree Festival using items that they found in their yards, gardens, and in natural areas. It was a spectacular and inspiring display and really a testament to what you can do with just items that you find outside. Today I would like to show you two tree topper ideas. We're going to be focusing predominantly on using milkweed seed pods for this one. Traditionally, Christmas tree toppers are either an angel or a star, and so today we are going to do both of those. And so first, let's get started on making our angel. So pictured here are all of the materials and tools for making an angel tree topper. Essentially what it is a stick and some milkweed pods, and that's it. And from there, it can become more and more elaborate. But I want to show you first how to build the basic structure. And from there, your imagination is endless in what you can use to decorate this with. For the stick or the body of the angel, look for kind of a thicker stick. You know, about an inch in diameter would be a good size. But keep in mind, there's no really hard and fast rules here. There's a lot of wiggle room. It's really up to you about the size and how big you want the angel to be. I selected a fallen stick from a sycamore tree, and I love sycamore with their exfoliating bark that reveals tans and browns and whites and reds even. It's a beautiful tree, and so I also wanted it to be kind of the showcase piece also for my angel that I was making. The other nice thing about sycamore trees is they tend to drop a lot of limbs, making finding one easy. Now, how long you cut your branch really depends on how you plan to affix this to your tree. For me, I'm just going to leave it a little bit longer, about a foot long in total, and I'm just going to insert about half of it into that top portion of the tree to keep that sitting there. You could also have a shorter stick and just put some wire on the back to attach that to the top upright branch of your Christmas tree. The other thing you can choose is whether to leave your cut ends a little bit rough or a little bit smoother. It's really up to you. Would you like to leave them a little bit more rough and jagged? That's a little bit more natural looking. Or you can use a circular saw and you can make a cut to smooth things out, which might be useful if you plan on putting any type of, like, say, a round wooden ball or an acorn or something for the head on the top. Now that we've selected the proper stick for the body of the angel, now we need our milkweed seed pods. First thing you're going to do is pick them up and start cleaning out all of the duff and seed out from the inside. Now that you have your milkweed pods cleaned out, go ahead and save the seed for planting somewhere later. You have a choice to make. Which way do you want the seed pods to face? Do you want them to be the front or the back of the angel? I like to face the outside of the pod to the front. But you can do a couple different things. You could even turn it around and you can do colorful paint on the inside or glitter or something like that to make the inside more shiny and face that out. But I like the kind of the rustic, rough colored outside portion of these seed pods, so I'm going to use those to face to the outside. Now, in terms of where you place the wings on the stick, you kind of want them to be up towards the head. Now, if you're going to, again, place something round on top to create the head, which you could use something to do that, you would place them probably closer to the top. But if the stick itself is going to be the head, then you could place them lower down on that body, so to speak. Once you have arranged where you want the wings to be, you just use your hot glue gun and you glue them onto the stick. There. Now the glue has cooled, and this is the basic shape for the angel tree topper. Now from here, there's a lot of different roads that we can go down in terms of how we want to decorate and create a really cool tree topper. So from this point on, it's really up to you what you would like to do next for your angel. I think for me, I would like to maybe add some arms, maybe a halo, and possibly a head onto the angel. And again, the way you do this, really the sky's the limit in terms of what you can find out there. For the arms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a thin twig that I found outside, and just using some pruners, I am going to cut the part that attaches to the body at an angle, and then kind of more of a flat angle towards the end. And I'll see maybe about the same length as the wings. And then with these arms, I will then just attach those to the body. with, again, using hot glue. So next I want to try to attach this bur oak acorn to the top, and that will be the head of the angel. I need to hold it for a little bit because the bur oak acorn is huge and heavy. And kind of the last touch I would like to put on my angel here would be a halo. And so actually from the same sycamore that I found the branch, I actually found a branch that had white bark, and so I took a circular saw and I cut these into small little cookies so that you could see this nice beautiful white bark of this sycamore tree right here. So I'm going to drill a hole into it, and then I just have some baling twine that I'm going to use to wire this above the head. So this twine should slide right through this hole, like so. And then I'm just going to take a pair of pliers, and these pliers I'm just going to use it to bend and then crimp down this wire on top of the little sycamore cookie. And then once you have this crimped down tight, you can kind of create a second crimp on the bottom side so that the cookie doesn't slide down. Now, what you could do is you could wrap the wire around the body very tightly. I think what I'm going to do though is I'm just going to slide this on the back side and use my hot glue gun again and affix that to the backside. And there you have it, a simple, charming angel Christmas tree topper made with items that we found outside. Our next Christmas tree topper is going to be a star made simply with milkweed seed pods. And so the first thing we have to do is clean out the seed pod. Now for this, we're going to need at least 5 halves seed pods, so about 2.5 milkweed seed pods. All right, for this tree topper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just kind of arranging things, laying things out, and testing to see how I like them. So this is going to be a star, so we need 5 points. Now, like the angel, you can face the seed pods from the outside or from the inside of the seed pod, as the out-facing part of the ornament. But for me, I still really like the outside, like the texture and the kind of that rustic looking color of this dried out seed pod, so I'm going to use that. But I have seen some really cool ideas online where they have taken some gold spray paint, they've sprayed the inside of this, and they've decorated the inside using found little leaves and flowers and little things that they find outside for the star. So again, this is just the basic shape. It's up to you to determine how you want to design and make this your own. So now I have my seed pods arranged the way that I want them for the star. Next is going to glue them together. Now don't worry about this gap here in the center. We have something to go there in just a second. As we wait for the glue to cool, it's time to pick out what we want to put in the center. Now this can be up to you. Now, sort of like our angel, we could use one of those sycamore little tree cookies that I cut out from that branch, and that's perfectly fine. I think trying to choose, we could also use another bur oak acorn. Go with that theme there. It actually looks really, really cute. I think though what I want to try, because I haven't made this one yet before, I'm going to try a sweetgum ball. I love sweetgum trees, so I'm going to see what that looks like right there. Again, we're going to use this to help hide and mask some of this kind of this gap that we have in the middle. Now, in terms of how you attach this to the tree, like the angel, you can wire it up with a piece of wire on the back. I think though I am going to attach a stick to the back of the star so I can just slide and insert it either on top, or even this could work in a bush outside or somewhere else on the Christmas tree. Also keep in mind, whatever sticks that you select for this project, whether it's the angel or for this, make sure that they still are fairly durable. You don't want them to be completely rotten and fallen apart. And there you have it, 2 Christmas tree toppers that you can create using things that you find outside. And this is a fantastic project to involve kids with. The thing that I really wanted to show you today was just the basic forms that you can use to then elaborate to your heart's content to create something that you or your family and friends can gather around and celebrate the holidays with. Thanks for watching.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Facebook Live with the Horticulturists. We are the Horticulturists here to answer your gardening questions and talk about all things gardening. My name is Candice Hart, and I am the State Master Gardener Specialist for U of I Extension. And I'm based here in Bloomington in central Illinois. And I love to chat about all things flowers and floral design, annuals, perennials, all of that are my favorite garden topics to chat about. We've got a special episode today talking all things holiday. So we've got some fun stuff planned for you today, but I also have two other horticulturists with me who are going to help talk about other topics. So Kelly, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kelly Allsup, and I'm a horticulture educator based out of Bloomington. I am passionate about pollinators and all things insects. I love beneficial insects. I even love talking about those invasive pests that come in. I think butterflies are really my favorite because of the way they adapt to the environment and the stories that I can tell people. So I love teaching about butterflies. And but I'm overall general horticulturist, love trees and flowers and shrubs. You can keep the grass, or you can ask somebody else how to grow it.
There you go.
On to you, Ryan. Ryan, do you know how to grow grass?
Yeah, I've had a little success growing turf grass. Although it's like Kelly, I'm not a huge fan of turf grass. I'm trying to convert my turf grass to native plants is my big thing. So yeah, I'm Ryan Pankow, horticulture educator out of Champaign, and really my most of my area of expertise is trees and shrubs. But like Kelly, I like native plants, insects, that interaction, that relationship between pollinators and native plants, and that's why I'm not a fan of turf. That doesn't do a lot for that interaction between those two. But I also grow some vegetables each year just for my family. I'm kind of a backyard vegetable gardener too. So those are kind of the areas of questions that I can answer. But today we're focused on holiday theme. So let's get into that stuff.
Yeah, the best time of year. I got my Grinch sweater on. I'm feeling it. So our topic today is gifts for the gardener and also holiday decor, kind of all things you can be thinking about this year. So if you have questions, feel free to start adding them to the comment box. So I know we had some maybe technical glitches, so hopefully those are all worked out for you guys. So feel free to start asking questions about today's topic or any gardening topic. We're happy to chat today, but we're just going to get right into it. But actually, I thought of something else before we start. Ryan, I had to ask you, how was your turkey? So we talked on the last show about how Ryan was raising his own turkey for Thanksgiving. How was it?
Oh, it was good. It was really good. I used to always smoke turkeys, so that's where I've got the best experience. But my smoker broke a couple years ago. Those things are maybe not a couple of years ago. So I oven roasted it. And I guess the only bad thing about it all is it took like an hour longer than I had anticipated because it was a 25-pound bird after it got all dressed and clean. But yeah, delicious. We gave family some leftovers, obviously, froze some. And so we'll have turkey meals for the rest of the winter time, I think.
Love it.
So, yeah.
And you didn't think there was going to be enough.
I know, yeah.
I was worried about, actually, the reality of it all is that we didn't go to our larger family event because of a COVID exposure. We decided it wasn't worth all of us getting together. So it really became a smaller Thanksgiving of like my smaller circle of family kind of around, just right around our hometown. So anyway, that's why there were so many leftovers. But I was worried, Kelly, for the larger Thanksgiving that might not have covered everyone. So
cool. Glad it worked.
How was the Thanksgiving farmers market here in Bloomington, Candice?
It was great. Really good turnout. Lots of people shopping for the holidays. So that was super fun. Yeah.
And did you see any unique items there that you had not seen before for the holidays?
What was really hot, people seem to be going crazy for, this isn't gardening related, but hot cocoa bombs. Everybody's been seeing those everywhere. One of the vendors made a bunch of those in different flavors, and yeah, people were going crazy. So you never know what the trend will be.
What was the big hort trend?
I wouldn't say there was anything much too different. The usual kind of vegetables for this time of year. Yeah.
Cut flowers?
Yep, I did dried bouquets, so that went well. That's always been popular, so that's good.
Well, that's
Cool.
awesome to hear.
Cool. Okay, so that was Thanksgiving. We're on to holidays, like we talked about. So my trees have been up since November 1st, so I've been in this mode for months already. But let's start it off with some gifts. So we are obviously all gardeners, so we may not be purchasing these items, or we may be purchasing these items for ourselves or other gardeners in our life. So Ryan, I know you had some good ideas for gifts for gardeners.
Yeah. I brought some of my favorite. I like gardening tools. That's something that I've, just my wife and I both really like neat and interesting gardening tools. So I brought some of those to just kind of show and tell. And I guess the first we kind of were talking about off air already is this wonderful tool referred to as the Hori knife, and I think it's inspired by the Japanese, but it's available in a bunch of different forms, and it's a heavy, a little bit sharp, not super sharp of a knife that has, a ridge back here for kind of sawing things. I like how it has some, increments you can measure with for planting depth on the backside. And so, it's just a neat and interesting, cool looking tool. We use it a lot for weeding, for dividing plants. It's great for that. It has this kind of serrated edge where you could cut through a clump of hosta or something. Mm-hmm. And so just one of those tools that never would have thought I really wanted or needed or, was awesome until we got one and we've had it in use. And it has this nice little case that, you can store it in, clips to your belt. So just a neat, interesting, different take on a gardening tool that, either for yourself to add to your Christmas list or for someone else that's a gardener, you could get, and they probably don't have one yet. So
nice. We just got a comment. Karen said she got one for her husband last year and he loves it. So good review there.
It's a cool tool. And I guess while we're talking about that, I've got something that's kind of similar. And it's nothing fancy, but the reason why I like this tool so much, kind of similar, doesn't have the knife edge. This is just a dull edge. But I don't know if anybody tuned into my Four Seasons webinar yesterday, but I talked all about root collars, like the root collar zone of a tree and how planting too deep causes issues with the root collar, which is where the trunk kind of transitions into the roots. And so one of the things I talked about was how to excavate the root collar on a tree that was planted too deep. And that's a pretty common thing that arborists do in tree care. And this is just, if you've tuned into that webinar, this is the tool I use to do all of those root collar excavations. And I just like it because it's not very sharp on the tip and it can get in around that trunk. And, if you have a tree trunk there, you're trying to kind of peel the soil away from, you don't have a sharp edge. This can cut a root if you need to. So just this probably between my wife and I, this is the tool that one of us has always used and the other one needs it. And where is it? And, we really try to keep track of this in our garden shed because it just is so useful. And it's not any fancy. Bought at a big box store, but I just like it because it's wide and again, like not super sharp. So it's not going to cut you or other things. So it's kind of a neat tool.
Yeah, you could use that for a ton of different things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the other thing I'll cover, and then we can hop to something else, but these are more ergonomically designed garden tools. And maybe folks have seen these before. They're pretty popular around, but you can tell ours have some wear and tear. We've had them for a number of years. We have a wider trowel that I forgot, but I've had this one out recently because I do like it for root collars as well. And what it does is it doesn't make you don't have to, like with this tool, I have to turn my wrist a lot where you can have just a more comfortable working position. And so, I know we talk about some of these things as you age as something that you should think about, but gosh, even as younger people, it probably helps us garden longer to have a more ergonomically correct tool. And while they were a little weird when we first got them, I really have come to like these and just something that, another just interesting, different take on gardening tools that someone on your list may be interested in. So,
yeah, love that. Might as well make it easier if you can, especially if it's something you're going to be using for a long period of time. Yeah. Love it. Cool. So Kelly, I know you have been kind of out shopping the local garden centers and kind of seeing what's out there for holiday plants and decor items. So I know you had a couple things you wanted to show too.
When I give gifts during the holidays, I like to give plants. A lot. My best friend is a plant person, Candice. She will be getting a plant this year. And then Carl has plants everywhere. So I got to get her something kind of fun.
Still have my air plant going from last year. So.
Right. But I mean, I could probably buy her poinsettias and she'd be ecstatic. So I think a lot of people think that plant people are not going to be happy with, just your standard red poinsettia. And I would say we are absolutely into it all and would consider this an absolutely lovely gift. Yeah. And we would, enjoy it and, take care of it. And it's an experience for us. So one of the things that I noticed this year is, we standardly grow, your 6-inch poinsettias that have the 5 or 6 bracts. That's what you're normally going to find. But I saw some, smaller pots, like 4 and 5 inches. And then we saw the much larger pots for extensive number of bracts, a larger plant for the higher price point. So it was like these really small ones. And here, this is a really a trend of poinsettias this year is these little mini ones.
That's cute.
And so
that's cool.
If you've listened to the show before, you know that I was a greenhouse grower before I took this job. And this is you're growing those poinsettias till about 3 to 4 weeks before you're ready to sell them. Because, a poinsettia, for the bracts to color up like this, we need the days to shorten. And so the days need to be shortened for a specific amount of time. For a normal poinsettia, it's 8 weeks. Candice and I used to go pull those curtains at night for 8 weeks straight to get our poinsettias to color up when we grew poinsettias for the Horticulture Club. So they just took this cutting like 3 to 4 weeks before it started coloring up, and that's how they did it. So it just a really cool thing. Usually you pinch, right? Usually you pinch it and then you have 5 or 6 bracts, and that's what sells the poinsettia. But I thought, the traditional 6-inch red is not really what I'm seeing out there in the industry. I'm seeing much larger sizes with higher price points. And then I'm seeing some of these smaller ones that people are using, with other stuff. Here's another thing is, the yellow. Can you think about putting yellow in your Christmas decor, Candice? Did you ever?
I mean, I do have one room that has kind of rainbow decor, so it would work in there.
So yellow might work. Yellow is a big color this year, but some of these specialty colors just may not be around in like big box stores. You might have to go to a higher end store. Another one was I don't have it, but here's that salmon-y color.
Yeah, I like that one.
And look what I had done to it.
Glitter.
I had it glittered.
I feel like that's a little bit of a travesty.
In case you want the bling bling.
Yeah.
But that doesn't scream nature or natural.
It doesn't.
That one's actually called Ice Punch. This one is called Mouse Ears.
That's cute. I like that one. Cool.
This one is called Winter Rose.
Oh, those are cool. Unique petals or unique bracts.
So, maybe, it's like every poinsettia article I've ever written in the last 10 years since I've taken this job, it's been like 6-inch reds, 6-inch reds. That's what I grew in the greenhouse, 6-inch reds. 95% I was growing you a 6-inch pot of red poinsettia. Maybe you're changing a little bit.
Well, and I think it's trends. I think it's also probably like the local garden centers realizing that they have to set themselves apart a little bit too. Because I mean, you can go to any box store and on Black Friday, they have them on sale for 99 cents, which is just bonkers. That's just throwing money out the door if you know how much they take to grow. So when it comes to the independent garden center, then they kind of have to be a little bit more unique, I feel like, to get people in there and buying those more interesting, which is, I'm all for it. I'd love something more unique than just the traditional poinsettia.
And I don't think people realize how difficult it is to grow a poinsettia.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I could grow hanging baskets and 4-inch pots and, you know, perennials and quartz dancing around till you're blue in the face. But when it came to poinsettias, I mean, I was testing my salts all the time, you know, making sure they're a certain size. It was it's an intense crop.
Keeping the white flies away.
I know.
It's not an easy crop to grow, which when you look at what they charge for them, you wouldn't really correlate that. Yeah.
And so, you know, those high-end garden centers, they're not going to buy, you know, a 6-inch cheaper, not quite as, you know, not higher quality of a plant. So they're going to have to charge those higher prices to get a more quality plant. Mm-hmm. So poinsettias.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think this is a good point too, to talk about how these are, we've talked about this in previous topics of how a poinsettia is basically like a living flower arrangement. Mm-hmm. You could certainly keep that poinsettia plant and grow it on as a house plant if you really wanted to. But like Kelly said, it needs 8 weeks of short days. So if you're really wanting to reflower a poinsettia at some point, that means you're going to be putting it in a closet or a dark room at 5 p.m. for 8 weeks in a row when it's still light outside. So it's just a lot of work when it comes down to it. So that's why most of the time we just recommend support your local garden center and head out and grab a new one every year that you can enjoy.
And I wanted to show you a little tip on how to pick out a poinsettia. So you look at the poinsettia. Let me get it. I just can't quite get the angle. Let me see if I can do this one.
You're trying to show the centers there, right?
I'm trying to, these are just the bracts. These are actual leaves that turn colors because of the shorter days. But in the middle are the flowers. And these are yellow. They're really insignificant. They're not like the showy part. Well, when you actually go to pick out your poinsettia, you want as many closed flowers as you can possibly get. You don't want them to all be open. That means that poinsettia is probably going to last a shorter period of time than if the flowers were more closed. And then poinsettias, they're native to Southern America. They're in Mexico also. These will not withstand cold temperatures. I meant will not. So even a day like this today, which is kind of warm, what is the temperature today?
52 here.
50s. Yeah.
I would still wrap this poinsettia, and I would not expose it to the cold temperatures, because if you've ever had a poinsettia where you left it in the car or you didn't take it home immediately and you let it expose to cold temperatures, it'll just drop all its leaves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a bummer.
So when those people want to wrap them, I mean, you don't leave the store without having it wrapped, and then you take it directly home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a good tip too. If you're buying it somewhere where there's not an opportunity to wrap it, don't buy it there. Buy it from a garden center that's going to wrap it for you.
So Kelly, I know you were trying to focus on the flowers there, but what should folks look for? What does an open versus a closed flower look like? Can you describe maybe a little bit? So those are pretty green looking.
So those are, you see one of them is open and it's sticking out its little pistils right here. The
yellow.
You see the little pollen at the end. So
yeah, that means it's open.
Let me see. Can I show you this? Yeah. You guys just keep talking, and I'm going to try with my phone.
Sounds good. So if anybody
I do like that. I do want to show you an open flower.
Mm-hmm. Here you go. Now don't move it around. There you go.
There you go. Do you see the open flower?
Yep. So that one at the bottom, you can see looks different than the other ones. Yeah.
So, I mean, this flower probably wasn't open when I bought it, but, it probably has opened since it's been in this office. But I will, look at it and take care of it. But I am excellent at watering poinsettias. I have a PhD in watering poinsettias, right, Candice?
Yep, sure do. Love it. Awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions about poinsettias or anything else so far, definitely add them in the chat box. Oh, and I missed one earlier. Ryan, you were talking about that second tool. Does it have a particular name?
Oh, this thing?
Yeah.
No, but I've got various versions of these. Like actually my wife got me one for Christmas and it had like razor sharp little edges right here and a pointy tip. So it's just kind of like a long skinny tool that is not super sharp is what I like about it. So no, there's not really a name for it that I know of.
I don't know what you'd call it either.
Do you know what the little beer cap opening looking part function is?
I think that's for like cutting twine or something. You would want to just cut a little piece of twine, or I mean, that's what I've used it for. I use twine a lot on tomato staking contraptions.
Or opening your beverage out in the garden.
Or opening your beverage, it works for that too. Or a can of beans or whatever it is.
I didn't know how else to describe it.
It works. Cool. Okay, so Ryan, did you have some other gifts?
Yeah, well, let's talk about, I actually have a picture to share here. Let's see if I can share my screen real quick. So are you guys seeing this picture?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is kind of a neat upcycled, recycled it's a piece of garden art. So it's not really all that useful like the tools we just looked at, but looks really neat. This is actually a doorknob from my mother-in-law's childhood home. So
that's cool.
So it's been recycled, put on just a piece of copper pipe, and just makes a really neat kind of meaningful garden piece of garden art. And I know that she and her sisters have also done, it was a little teacup on a saucer, and that was the same pattern of china as their mother had growing up. And, they found it at a thrift shop or an antique store and did them up the same way. And I didn't get a picture of that one, but just a neat little way to put kind of to use things you have around the house to make something and kind of recycle or reuse it and do it on the cheap, but really meaningful. So that's just kind of a cool idea. And there's a ton of different ways you can kind of make garden art like that.
Totally.
Let's see, I've got another just kind of item that I've thought was pretty neat. Did I stop sharing?
You did.
I guess I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
That's okay.
Another thing that I've just thought was kind of neat and should be seeing my screen again is just some of these shepherd's hooks that have something different on it, where this is one that I had to go back out and place this in the garden this morning because we've taken it down for the year. But this is where we, feed hummingbirds. And this is a little patch of columbine right here. And they just fly through here and love this spot in our garden. And just as kind of a neat, different take on your average shepherd hook. But it also leads me into another idea, which is just all the many different bird feeders that are out there. And I meant to kind of take some pictures of ours, but all that stuff is, I didn't get around to getting pictures of our bird feeders for this. But there's just a million different ideas in the way of bird feeders that you could use. They make a great gift for so many of us gardeners like to feed birds as well and just have something else to look at in the wintertime when our plants aren't as active. So just a couple of...
That's one of my favorite things. Honestly, this past year or two, I added like some nice bird feeder stakes that are raccoon proof and like really kind of nicer ones. And I have one right outside my office window at home. And I just love watching them out there. It's the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some just plain regular ones that have our, bird feeder or squirrel proof little baffles on them. But it was, some of this all came from, discussions around Thanksgiving too, where like with other gardeners, with some of my mother-in-law and her sisters are all master gardeners. Some of them are McLean County master gardeners. Kelly, in your area.
Oh yeah, what's their names?
I'm not gonna call them out on the air here, but they gave me a ton of great ideas. Is where a lot of this came from. But
Nice.
one of them shared a shepherd's hook that had a little weather vane at the top, and just it's just a little cool. It's something different and neat for that. For a gardener, that'd be a wonderful gift. This time of year. So
yeah, it's a good idea. Awesome. And I think what's nice about those two is even if you're not a gardener, you still love. I just bought another feeder for my grandma this weekend for Christmas because she just loves watching them outside her window. It's just a great thing to watch.
Yeah, I mean, right along with that is birding books. I mean, I know my wife's grandfather, when he retired, all of a sudden became this birder. He got a bird book, he had a bird feeder, and it's just really neat. Like we have, of course, at my house have all kinds of birding books, but a couple years ago for Christmas, we got ourselves, the family got. It's a big board that has a poster of all the birds of North America mounted on it. And
that's cool.
Unfortunately, towards our bird feeders out that window, we couldn't find a place to hang it, but it hangs in our office. And it's just really cool. You can see they're grouped by, families of birds, and just neat to see them all. And then when we're out on a hike and we come back, we can kind of look through that quickly and see them all in one place if we didn't have our ID book. So there's a lot of different ways to get to integrate the bird ID into your bird feeding and kind of get into that. And it's, if you've never got into birds, they are fascinating. They have so many different niches they inhabit and different things they do. And certain ones migrate through at different times of the year, like the hummingbirds we just saw the feeder for, and so many others that, throughout the seasons, you see a major change and shift in the birds at your bird feeder. And I just love, with everything else in spring, to see all the different waves of birds come through and visit our feeders and the natural areas around us and the trails we hike and other things. So really cool hobby to get into.
Yeah. And another thing for you, just by adding in all those native plants and native shrubs, that really increases habitat for birds. So if you like the bird feeder idea and you want to take it a step further, just know that some of these native plants can lure birds to your yard because they're looking for the different layers and the different food sources. And so, if you are a gardener and you love birds, there are tons of plants out there for the bird gardener.
Love it. Yeah. Good suggestion.
Lots of great shrubs with winter berries. Winterberry is one of those I was just talking about the other day.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We had a follow-up comment. Sandra said, I have a tool like that I think was called a root buster. That sounds like that would be a proper name for that tool. So that's good. And then this might be a good segue for you, Kelly. Karen asked, any suggestions regarding Christmas cactus? Did you happen to have a Thanksgiving or Christmas cactus that we were going to look at? I was thinking you did.
I think I just have Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I'm finding Thanksgiving cactuses and they're awesome. One of the thing about a Thanksgiving cactus is I could probably give this to Candice and she'll have it 25 years from now. And she probably will have only bumped it up pots maybe 3 times in that 25 years.
Yeah.
So they're like plants that passed down from generation to generation. Just to re-emphasize what kind of gift you're giving. You're giving somebody a family heirloom,
long-term gift.
Thanksgiving cactus. And then I know you guys think I am like the perfect horticulturist, but I am not. And I am lazy at times too and don't do what I'm supposed to do. But I have, I've had a pot, this pot, for the past 10 years. So I started this job. Never potted it up, not in 10 years. And I haven't even fertilized it in the last 2 years. Okay, people.
That's my type of plant right there.
Now, if I would have done just a little bit of fertilizer this year, through the growing season, I probably would have a lot more buds. And then it would be a little bit greener. Because you see it's a little bit light in color.
But it's still pretty good though.
I mean, for basically neglecting a plant and it blooms and it'll bloom multiple times. Like it's been blooming since Thanksgiving. It will go until February sometimes. As far as, taking care of them, neglect. They like to be root bound. Don't ever pot them up unless it is just like where you look at the roots and they're so wrapped and there's not much soil left. Then you can think about potting it up, but just take it up one size from a 4 to a 6 or a 6 to an 8. Really, every 10 years, I wouldn't pot it up more than that.
Yeah.
Water like a succulent, let it dry down. I let it dry down between waterings, and it is reliable every single year. Now, the Christmas and the Easter, they're just not quite as common just because they're not as easy as Thanksgiving. But the reason I have the Thanksgiving cacti is because we do the little leaf cuttings during Master Gardener trainings every year. And so Master Gardeners love, just taking this one little piece of leaf like this, sticking it in a little bit of soil like this, and it'll form a new plant. Now, it'd take a while to get to this.
Yeah, definitely.
But just a really fun, easy. You're never going to throw it away. It's not going to be the one where you're like posting pictures on YouTube or Facebook asking what's wrong with it. It's going to be your go-to.
Well, unless you overwater it.
Well, I was just going to say that. So Karen asked for suggestions, and that would be the one suggestion I would give, is just to simply not overwater it. They really are going to thrive on neglect more so than smothering of love.
And not pot it up.
Yeah, leave it, let it go.
Even if you do think that it's time to pot it up, it might go into a little bit of shock.
Well, and I know when I first started with houseplants, years ago, it was really hard to not water stuff too much. You want to love them so much and take care of them, and it's just so hard to not want to water them. And also the potting up, Kelly, thing. I can't tell you how many times I've probably screwed that up because it just seems like you're doing the best thing for the plant. Like, oh my gosh, it's not looking good, I'll pot it up. Well, that stress plant isn't always the best candidate for disturbance of its roots, for one thing. But
do you want me to tell you the secret of watering? I have a PhD in this. Did I mention I have a PhD in? Oh, that was poinsettia.
That was poinsettias. You can have more than one, though, I guess.
Secret to watering. If you'll see, us greenhouse growers, I'll pop things out all the time, and I'll look at my roots, and I'll look and I'll go, are my roots white? That's a really good sign that my roots are white. If my roots were not white, that would mean I was overwatering this plant. And then I'll always feel the bottom. Usually it says the top 2 inches. Like this top 2 inches can be dry, but all of this is still wet. And even if this is dry, I wouldn't want you to water it. So I actually want you, instead of putting your finger in the top here, I actually want you to put your finger in the bottom here. Sometimes the finger don't fit, right? But really, I want it to completely dry out between waterings. And I know that's hard for people. I'll have people in the greenhouse go, oh, Candice, didn't you love it when they said that? Oh, I didn't know if I should water or not, so I just watered it a little bit.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep the top edge watered a lot.
And then I'd fall on the ground and go, either you mean it or you don't. Either you water it till it comes out the bottom or you don't. Now, this too, how does Candice and I water it? Let's say she put it in a decorative pot right here. She's not going to water it in this pot.
No, take it out of that.
Take it out. She's going to water this in her sink. And she's going to allow the water to drain from the bottom. If it stays in a pot, then it's going to keep the water in there and it's going to start drowning the roots. And she's not going to have this for 3 months that she could potentially have. So another poinsettia trim that I'm trying to sell. Here we go. Here we go.
What?
I love these cypress, which are actually zone 5. They're
Cute.
I love making a dish garden with poinsettias. I love this idea. I think this is what I'm going to do for Candice. Well, I'm not going to pot it up, right? Because the 3 plants I'm going to use have different conditions. And so I'm going to just put them in like this. And I'm going to use, here's a Kalanchoe, and this is Calendria. Say that again. Calandria.
Yeah.
I'm skipping.
I Googled it though. It's a Calendiva. And the only difference,
that's it.
The only difference between that and Kalanchoe is that it has way more petals. So it's 32 petals and Kalanchoe only has 4. So not too different.
Oh yeah, I wanted to use the winter rose. So I might, do something like this, get a nice pot, make her a little dish garden. Then I'm probably going to take, just general moss like this and cover the tops so it looks really pretty and she can use it on whatever counter she has. And then after the holidays, she can take all 3 plants apart, right? So clearly, what is she going to do with the poinsettia?
I'll sit.
She's going to throw it away.
Greenhouse.
What is she going to do with this? She's not throwing this away. She'll keep it as a house plant, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What is she going to do with this? Well, she could plant it because it's zone 5 if she wanted. And it will grow about 4 feet. Or she could just keep it as a plant and keep it going. I do think after a while, it would not last a long time in a pot like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so too. Eventually you'll have to pot it up or put it in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for her, this would be a great gift, right, Candice? Because it'd be like 4 in 1, right?
Yeah.
And that didn't cost much. The plants were like $10 to $12 a piece. This was, on sale, and great gift for my horticulture friend.
Merry Christmas to me.
And I got to be creative.
Yeah, that's the fun
right?
part. Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's see. I think we had one follow-up question talking about Christmas cactus. Jane asked, do you prune Christmas cactus later? Would you ever cut it back?
I do all the time, every single year.
Because you want cuttings, or do you just prune it to prune it?
Well, I'll let people take cuttings and then I'll even the plant out.
Yeah.
So I'm basically cutting it back by half every single year is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you have to do that.
I was just going to say that you don't. I would say I've had some where I've just let them go for years. And but if you don't like how big it is, or you don't like how it's draping this way, there's no problem in pruning. Yeah. Yeah,
they're great at branching.
Totally.
Do you have one in your house, Brian?
I've got a number of them. I don't really prune mine. I mean, mine aren't in super well lit spots, so they don't grow a ton. So I don't know, if something gets broke because the kids walk by it and bump it, I'm cutting it off. But it's definitely one of those that I am not intensively managing, because it's
letting it go. Yeah. That's
Isn't that the sign of a good horticulturist that knows enough to be like, I can just walk by that plant and not look at it.
It'll be fine.
And people will think I'm awesome at growing plants.
Well, those are the kind of plants I seek out. The ones that are not high maintenance.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we're not about that. One other thing I wanted to comment too about Thanksgiving cactus, Christmas cactus, Easter cactus, they're short day plants, which is why, of course, they are flowering this time of year. So just like the poinsettias we were talking about, they need those shorter days to initiate all of those flower buds. So that's a common question people ask, well, why doesn't mine flower? And one of the problems might be that you have it in a room that is lit all day long, maybe your kitchen where you have the lights on until 9, 10 p.m. every day. What's happening then is you're not giving that plant the opportunity to have that shorter day length. So you might just need to move them to a different room where it gets natural day length, and that'll help you trigger some flower buds.
And
Yeah,
mine
that's a
didn't
that's a
office.
problem. That's a problem with mine, that they're in just a couple of ours are in just too lit of an area and they don't really flower great. So it's sometimes a trick of just finding that perfect spot in your house too, where you're not having those lights on at night. And yeah,
Totally. Cool. Well, let's talk some more about decor. I've got a little porch pot that I was going to show you guys, and then we can talk about some other kind of plants and stuff while we're doing it. Keep your questions coming in the comment box, but let me get this moved over here. Okay, so we've talked a lot about gifts. We've talked a lot about plants as decor, but evergreens, of course, to me is kind of my biggest decor item for the holidays, especially outside. So all of my window boxes, all of my containers get swapped over to evergreens for the holidays. So the nice thing about this is that you can use a container you already had. So this container actually still has perennials in it. It has some coral bells, some ferns that I just left in here because they were growing on the porch. Because I'm actually going to use the soil as kind of the holding mechanism to hold my evergreens in. So the way I typically start is to figure out, okay, how tall do I want to go with this porch pot? And a lot of that depends on like the color of the container, how big of a container is, and kind of the visual weight of it. But in general, about 1:1 is a classic kind of height recommendation. So if this pot is, I don't know, 12 inches tall, I want to go at least another 12 inches in height with my evergreens at the top. And Kelly and Ryan, feel free to add any of your tips here too.
Sometimes I'll put a little sand in there if I don't have enough soil.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is huge. I mean, if I were to say there's one trend that is definitely horticulture-y for the holidays, it's making your own porch pots.
Yeah, so absolutely.
In the industry, I'm seeing where you can go and you can pick pieces and you can buy it by the pound, or I'm seeing like bunches for you to buy all together, where you can, have different greens, and then you can go in and add the special stuff later. So, what she's using now, is that balsam or Fraser?
Noble fir. So I started with a kind of a taller piece of noble fir that's straight up and down in the center. And then what I'm doing is taking my kind of slightly shorter pieces of that noble fir and starting to kind of fill out the sides. So the key with a good looking container is to have multiple kind of angles so that it's really full. So I'm going to start with that first piece more vertical. And then as I kind of go towards the edge, I'm starting with more kind of branches that are going to overflow over the side. So I'm going to use kind of this noble fir as kind of my bigger kind of bulky green. I like to start with something a little thicker to kind of fill it out, and then add in kind of the more textural wispy pieces.
And you notice she's going to use tip pieces, but she's also going to use pieces where she's already cut the tip out.
Yeah, so like this piece here, I've cut out the nice pretty tip, but I'm also going to put this in a location where I can kind of hide that cut end, and it's not just going to look like a blunt branch coming out.
Yeah, that's kind of fun. It's like the opposite of pruning, where you have to hide the cut on the limb. Like you get to hide the cut by placing it,
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a pretty...
I'm sorry. Yeah. Another thing that's making her successful is the turning.
Yeah.
I feel like turning is the key to constantly turn it around and look for a spot.
Yeah, look at all angles. So next I'm going to switch to another ingredient, because I think the biggest factor too is to have multiple types, that you really have a lot of dimension in your container. So I've also got some yew or taxus, whatever you want to call it, that I actually just pruned from my garden. It's a good time of year to prune. It's the only time of year I prune my yew is when I need evergreens. So I'm just taking that U and starting to fill in kind of some of those gaps between the noble fir. Still trying to kind of keep an eye on the shape that I'm going for and kind of the height of that container. But you can see it's starting to fill out pretty nicely.
Well, I definitely see how the turning it helps. And with the camera angle like this, we can get this continuous view of what's there. Yeah, definitely helps fill it in.
Would you say the average pot is about 8 to 10 pounds of greens?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, maybe this size pot, probably a little less than that, but that's probably a safe amount. Yeah.
Because sometimes I'll go to the, store and I'll be like, how many pounds should I get for this
Yeah,
pot?
it's hard to know.
I tend to do 5 to 10 pounds per pot is what I tend to do.
And if you have extra, I'm sure you can find another pot or a window box or some other area you can kind of tuck it into. So now I've switched over to some of the cedars. This is an incense cedar. Just again, like I said, adding kind of those airy kind of wispy textures now to kind of soften up the coarseness of the fir and the
Candice,
hue.
You're using yellow.
I am using a little bit of yellow. That is true.
Yellow can be a Christmas color.
It can be. And then I've got another type of cedar here that I'll use as kind of my last bit here. So I can use some of that a little bit taller. Just to fill in.
This is when when you're flower arranging, this is when you actually need your pruners, because let me tell you, scissors will not cut evergreen branches. And then if you are one of those people that do not like your hands dirty, you might want to wear gloves, because what happens is the resin gets left behind on your hands, and then the dirt attracts to it. So at the very end of doing this, her hands are going to be all dirty.
Yep. And you know what's a good thing now about post 2020 is you probably have hand sanitizer sitting around. Alcohol will help break that down. So that's a good use for that. So I'll stop there. I could certainly add kind of some more bits to this if I wanted to, but really it's as full as I would like, and it's kind of the size that I would like. So you could stop here and just go strictly greens. But I like to also add some other decor to it. So I might add some pine cones to this. I've also got some winterberry. Ryan mentioned that earlier for birds. So I have a couple of stems of that I'm going to stick in here to kind of, again, accentuate a little bit of the height of that.
Another great shrub with some red color is red azure dogwood. Red twig dogwood.
Totally.
That looks really awesome in those.
Yeah, that's perfect for this time. So I think once I get outside, I might add a couple more pine cones and stuff, but that's the general idea there is just to really kind of check your height, make sure it's balanced with your container, make sure you've got those evergreens going in at all angles so it really fills out, and then finish off with kind of the decorative bits, whatever kind of goes with your
so then how long will that last, Candice, or what do you do to kind of keep it going?
Yeah, so the good thing about this being an outdoor pot is that it's going to be cold. So these evergreens are going to stay looking great really all winter long. If it was inside, they're going to dry out obviously much more quickly because it's an indoor warm environment. But yeah, outside that'll last you all winter long. Same with the winterberry. Now, since that soil was pretty dry, I may go ahead and water this outside just to give it some moisture to get started off with. But then once it freezes, they will last you all winter long. And then I just pull them out in the spring when I'm ready to start the spring plants then. Yeah.
Is there anything sorry.
I was going to say, just also a great way to, if you made wreaths, we did some wreath making. I don't know if it was last weekend or the weekend before. And we have some extra cuttings from that, and I got those from just pruning shrubs around our yard and stuff. It's a great time to do your pruning for the year.
Right, exactly.
And use the cuttings. But I think that just gave me the idea here. Like, we should probably do that with what's left. There's a little tarp of those left in our on our back porch that would probably make 2 pots.
There you go. Yeah, it works perfectly.
So Candice, how would you attach a pine cone or a decorative ornament or something in that arrangement?
Yeah, so I would use a piece of wire. Like if I'm worried about it being windy or like being in a spot that does get more exposure, I would just get a long piece of wire, or if you have a paddle of wire, whatever you might have, wrap it around the bottom of the pine cone or the ornament or whatever item you're adding in. And then you can use that wire as a stem, or honestly, if you have an extra stem of one of your evergreens, you can wire it to a branch and then use that to kind of stick down into your soil to kind of hold it in place. Yeah, because especially on those big windy days, things can get a little crazy.
And what I've noticed too is sometimes those little decorative sticks that you buy, make sure they're for outside.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They, you think they're for an outside pot and you use them and then they blow up and they get all withered away. So, cheaper may not be better when it comes to those little decorative Christmas, whatever you guys call them in the world.
Bits, fake bits. Yeah.
Yeah, fake bits.
That's what you call it. This is all stuff you can get at, not all garden centers will have kind of a huge assortment, but most of your local kind of bigger independent garden centers will have an assortment of greens you can get by the pound or by the bundle, and then branches and stuff like that you can add in, which is nice. Or if you have it in your own garden, that's great too, even better.
Yeah, I've actually considered planting some things for this.
Right. I know.
Last couple of years we've been lucky. We had an arborvitae I cut down. I don't know if it was last year or the year before that we used. This year I pruned some stuff. It's like, gosh, next year, I don't know. What are we going to do? Yeah. But you mentioned that'd be an awesome one to be able to repeatedly prune and easily shape. Arborvitae is one that I love pruning arborvitaes. I mean, I always have. Like, they're so prunable. There's probably some plants that are evergreen that are more difficult. Some of the cedars are probably more difficult to kind of continually prune like that. But I've been really kind of thinking about that since we've got into wreath making around our place a little more the last few years, and just what are the plants that would be best.
I keep meaning to get some winterberry planted because I would use the heck out of that every year.
What about Candice, what about crabapple, or what about other berries?
Hawthorn.
What steps do I need to take if I find something that I like to condition it before I put it in the arrangement, or is there any tips?
Not really. I mean, honestly, if you're just foraging from your garden and the arrangement's going to stay outside, I usually just cut them to whatever length you need and then stick those right into the arrangement. And like I said, it's a good idea to water it, just get some water in there that first time. But no, otherwise, those cold temperatures do a lot of kind of holding everything in place. Yeah.
It's like when I talk about the poinsettias. You would think I give you a plant, you would think, okay, I put this in the sun. No, I don't want you to put it in the sun. I want to stop photosynthesis. I want to slow it down. I want you to keep it in a cool room. I don't want you to have it right next to the heater vent because that's just going to keep it going and make it last a little bit longer. So this is the cool temperatures away from the heater vent, away from the door, is where this is really going to do the best. Yeah.
Same with the flower arrangement. Same. You're really just trying to extend the life of it. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, we've got about 5 minutes left. So if you have any lingering questions or favorite gifts, anything you want to share, feel free to add those in the comments. Sue commented that she made her porch pot yesterday. Awesome. She used red twig dogwood branches, 9-bark branches, the dried heads of sedum, absolutely, white birch sticks, and then, of course, evergreens. Nice. And she said she put her pot in another pot with a brick in the bottom for support since it's windy and it lasts till March, and she'll pull out any branches that yellow as time goes on. So yeah, you got it, Sue. That's a good tip about the brick. That's why I also like to try to water them well too, is to give that soil some weight. Because I know Kelly's pulled up to my house and mine blow over occasionally, some of the taller ones.
Picking up her pots.
I know. I need a bricks in there.
Well,
no,
so
really, I have to water them.
That watering goes a lot longer with these colder temperatures. You don't have that heat evaporating it. And
Yep, exactly. Awesome. Well, glad to hear you're doing those, Sue. That's awesome.
And really making it our own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what's fun too, is just walking around your garden and seeing what you have. I have a lot of dried hydrangeas tucked into mine. I love the sedum would be great. There's so much stuff you could use.
It really doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
No, that's the great thing too, especially if you have it in your garden. Okay, well, we've got a couple minutes left. So you guys, are there any plants we didn't hit on? Any gifts we didn't hit on? What do we want to close it out with while we wait for questions?
I found lavender.
Oh, that's cute. Trimmed in a
Christmas tree.
Trimmed in a Christmas tree.
If this were one of the plants in the dish garden that I would give Candice, I think this is the annual lavender. So she could have it as a house plant, and then she could actually pot it in her garden or pot it in a container for the summer. And then she could bring it in or it would die out. I do think that when it comes to stuff like lavender and rosemary, and Ryan can attest to me, is if it's outside and it's just doing amazing and you bring it inside, it's like, what? And then it just dies, right? Yeah. Always dies.
Where did the humidity go? What?
Not the biggest fan of overwintering lavender and rosemary, just because I'm not,
It's a tough one.
It is. It's tough. It wants an environment that we cannot provide it.
Yeah, that's a tough one to do inside.
But I know that Candice will love the lavender because she's into scented. She's all into the scented stuff. And
you're right. I would just put it out on my deck then for the summer and add it to my herb pots. Yeah.
So it's supposed to be.
I might have to go back and get some lavender before it runs out. That's the one thing I was like, we need more plants, because people actually think I stop buying plants in the winter. And they are crazy, aren't they?
No, if anything, I buy obviously more house plants in the winter, because I crave plants. So I'll head to the garden center if I need to get out of the house. Let's go check out the garden center and see what they have.
It is the favorite part of my job, is buying plants. My mom asked me what she could get me for Christmas this year. And I said, can I pick out all the house plants that I want you to buy for yourself? And she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I just want you to give me a budget and go crazy. Because I just want to have fun picking out plants. It's fun.
Yeah, totally.
And it's fun trying something new, right?
Yeah, and that's usually what I'm bringing home is I haven't tried this before. Let's see what I got. See what we can do. That's what makes it fun. And we did have one last question here. Looks like from Elizabeth. Is jasmine a holiday plant? Would you consider jasmine a holiday plant, Kelly?
I think you would find it. I haven't found it, but both Candice and I use it as a house plant.
I say I have one on the counter right across from me, but I bought it a couple months ago. I didn't necessarily buy it this season, but yeah, I would use it as a holiday plant for sure.
Yeah. Especially if they had forced it into bloom.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I need to research. And maybe Kelly, what conditions I'm going to need to get this guy to reflower, because it's a nice foliage plant right now.
I don't think you're going to get it to reflower on your kitchen counter.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah,
I think you're probably going to have to give it a little bit more sun, maybe some fertilizer. But I don't know for sure. I'm just used to forcing them in the greenhouse. I've not had it as a house plant for very long. I too love it.
Yeah.
But when I was in the greenhouse, it was like once the jasmines were no longer in bloom, they just weren't a valuable plant for us to sell. So we throw them away.
Yeah, it's so sad. Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just
I
like,
will-
you know, the old orchids, when you go in and you see a phalaenopsis that has faded away and, you know, the box stores put this pathetic plant for 50 cents. Like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm up for a challenge every now and then, but I found the lavender at just a high-end garden center in town here. You know, I just went into the multiple garden centers around here and I just looked for cool little plants. And then I wanted to look and see what all their poinsettia trends. And that's where I concluded, you know, again, I say that's poinsettia trends, but it's poinsettia trends here in Bloomington Normal.
Yeah, right.
Whether that's the whole state of Illinois, I'm not sure. I do think these are going to take over, though.
Those are super cute. I hope they do. I like that. Yeah.
Like this at a place setting, like that at each table setting. How gorgeous would that be?
For somebody in an apartment, like a smaller space, it's perfect. Yeah. Love that.
What a cute little gift. Like, I mean, I could give this to Candice and get by with cheap.
And I would still love it. I would still love it. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for your questions today, for watching. I hope you got some good holiday inspiration. Get out there, work on your evergreens, start shopping for the gardeners on your list. We thank you guys for joining us. We're going to be back for one more show this year. So December 16th will be our next show. And we're going to keep again with a holiday theme. And I think we're going to talk about kind of handmade ornaments with garden materials and stuff like that. So definitely join us again in December. We will see you guys then. Don't forget, we also have a horticulture Facebook group, and we'll get the link in the comment box too. So if you have questions, stuff you want to share between shows, that's a great place to go. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next time. Bye.